Today we want to talk about the Senate Republican agenda relative to progress and opportunity in Connecticut cities. We firmly believe that the strength of our state depends upon the strength of our cities, and the proposal put forth by the Senate Republican caucus aims to help to create an environment that enables individuals and jobs to flourish in our cities. It is a first step to a larger conversation, and our goal is to explore new ways to support and strengthen our urban communities. In particular, sustainable job growth, small business development, private-public partnerships, awareness and accessibility of available resources, and even justice reforms to help people get back to work and lead productive lives in our society. There are a number of senators from our caucus behind me, and there'll be some who are going to talk about each aspect of this proposal. So we'll start off with Scott France, and then Senator McLaughlin, Senator Kaine, Senator Kissel, and Senator Witkos, and I'll just have them come up. So, Senator France.
Thank you, Senator Pisano, and thank you for coming today to hear us out on our plan for the urban areas in the state of Connecticut. And I, for one, as someone who's been involved with economic development within the state of Connecticut for well over 20 years, I can tell you that I have a strong belief that a job is a cure-all for nearly all, if not all, of the ills that we face as a society, as a state, as a nation. A job is a source of pride. It's a source of dignity and purpose, not to mention the fact that you can actually earn some money and put it in the bank and invest it and someday be able to go out and do some great things with that capital. So a job is a very, very good thing. Where do jobs come from, especially when you're talking about the difficult, more challenging areas such as the inner city? It has to come from what we would all commonly refer to as entrepreneurialism, especially these days, given the condition of many of the different urban areas. You have to start with new ideas, things that are going to catch on. Starting the same old, corner grocery store is okay, but it's probably not going to have a great chance of succeeding. So we came up with a component of this overall plan with a program called FAST, F-A-S-T, which stands for Financial Assistance for Startups. And this is designed to be used in the urban areas where it's more difficult to find capital. We're the first to recognize that the entrepreneurial spirit is very much alive within the inner cities, but we're also the first to admit that the funding sources are just not there, or they're too difficult to get to go and explore the opportunities in the inner city areas. So the FAST program is designed to loan micro amounts, meaning between $10,000 and $50,000 to startup businesses within the inner cities. And this is going to be backed by the faith and credit of the state of Connecticut to the tune of 70% that could be negotiated. And we're going to try to work with community banks and other sources of capital to give them the boost to go out and try this program. And this is all going to be funded as a cutout from the Small Business Express funding, which, as we all know, is up to $250 million. So this is a small, tiny fraction of that would actually go to the inner cities, and this would just be a start. This would be, in my judgment, like a pilot program. If it's working, it's taking off, and I've seen this happen before, but with really limited resources. This would be a much more meaningful level that would be putting into this particular area. So, this area has largely been ignored. CI, DECD, they generally don't spend all that much time in these areas. There was a time maybe a decade ago where they did make some concerted efforts, and it was successful, but kind of died out when my good friend John Lobon, who ran the Urbank program, decided to retire. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Senator McLaughlin.
Thank you, Senator France. I think second in the agenda for us is the Connecticut EDGE tax credit program. EDGE meaning Economic Development for a Growing Economy tax credits. Basically what we seek to do with these tax credits is developing or converting existing vacant buildings in urban centers to affordable mixed-use development or viable commercial space. Now, if you drive through any one of the urban centers of Connecticut, including my hometown, downtown specifically, there is a high vacancy rate. And we believe that incentivizing development in those areas means jobs for communities that have higher unemployment rates, specifically in downtown neighborhoods, downtown communities that have higher unemployment rates. If we can fill those empty storefronts with businesses, that is conducive to lowering the unemployment rates in those urban centers. These tax credits that are being proposed may also work in partnership with federal tax credits. So we can take the federal affordable housing or commercial development tax credits, leverage them with the state tax credits, and it brings us even more viability to a substantial investment in one of these vacant buildings. Secondly, we feel it's important that we continue with a program that found great success in Connecticut known as JET. The Job Expansion Tax Credit Program expired back on January 1st of 2014. We believe that that should be expanded for another year. And with that, we're finding very great success with people who live with disabilities of some type. They would qualify, their employer who hires them would qualify for $500 per month in credit, and those employers who will hire former military personnel would qualify for $900 per month. This program was a winner, and we should fire it up again as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mike. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Senator Rob Kane. Many of you know I own a small business in Waterbury, which is one of the cities that we talk about in this urban agenda. This is probably the smallest portion of our proposal, but I think probably the easiest for the state of Connecticut to implement. You know, what you'll find is a lot of rankings when it comes to small business, and Connecticut typically ranks in the bottom of the 50 states across the U.S. We're certainly number one in women's and men's basketball, but when it comes to business, we rank really low. So what we've done is done some research about how easy it is for companies to access state websites and state agencies, and we found it very difficult. You kind of have to bounce around from website to website just to get some information. If you look at the states of Georgia, Alabama, Minnesota, for example, it's all consolidated into one website and very easy to navigate. Alabama, for example, you can live chat with a representative from the state agency that you wish to talk to. Georgia has gotten awards for the ease of use their websites have created. So this is certainly one of the things that we recommend the state make online websites more easily, more intuitive, and user-friendly, rather than the scattered process to which we have right now. So if any of you wish to go on some of the state websites, you'll find that it's very frustrating, especially for a young entrepreneur or a person looking to do a startup. So that's one of the recommendations we put forth in this proposal, and actually quite easy without any budgetary conflicts to implement. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. State Senator John Kissel. I'm here to speak about juvenile justice reform. I'm very happy to say that our caucus has reached across party lines, working with our colleagues from the other side of the aisle, as well as in both chambers. We've had discussions with the Sentencing Commission, and I think that we have an agreement that would bring Connecticut in line with recent United States Supreme Court decisions, including Miller versus Alabama. And that's part of our agenda here today, and I want to thank our leadership for making this a priority, because one of the things that unfortunately we get targeted as being heartless and we don't believe in redemption, and it is absolutely not the case. The reforms that we've embraced and that I feel very confident will get out of the Judiciary Committee and then be passed by both the House and the Senate will make sure that individuals that are incarcerated at a young age for A and B felonies that total 10 years or more will have a right to get reviewed during their sentence and see if they qualify to be paroled. We also wanted to make sure, though, on balance, that either the victims themselves or the family of the victims, if unfortunately there was a death, are notified of these hearings, not only at the time of the review by the Board of Pardons and Paroles, but at the time of the sentencing, and whether it's a plea agreement or after a trial by a judge or a jury. We do believe in redemption. We know that there's problems, especially regarding young people in our inner cities, but we also believe that people can turn their lives around, and we have not lost faith or hope in our young people, whether they live in an urban area, suburban area, or in the rural countryside. So we believe that we're willing to work on these areas. We want to be a willing partner in criminal justice reform, and along those lines, I'm happy now to turn it over to my friend and colleague, Senator Kevin Witkos.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon, everyone. I spent the majority part of my adulthood in law enforcement, and part of that job was to track down criminals, arrest them, and make sure they go to jail for the crimes that they've committed against society. But today I stand before you as a senator to say that we agree in premise with the governor's second chance bill, and that is to defer incarceration for nonviolent offenders and somebody who is found with a small personal amount of drugs on their possession. But we do have some concerns with the governor's proposal, and that in one of them is that not all records should be wiped clean. Take, for example, somebody who had assaulted an elderly person. Should an employer of a nursing home know that that was the crime that they were charged with? I say yes. We also believe that there should be more accountability as it relates to an early release or somebody being released from pardons and paroles. An individual should have to sign off on a document stating that they know that the person that is appearing before them is ready to re-enter into society. In the Senate Republican office, we're going to take it one step further with our proposition of Senate Bill 363, which is a pilot program to initiate a gatekeeper. And the gatekeeper program will be instituted in 2 courts in our state of Connecticut. And after an arrest, but prior to an arraignment, those folks that are trained, professionally trained, will meet with folks that are suffering from mental illness, homelessness, potential veteran, a drug addiction, because we believe that diversionary programs are the way to go start treating the symptom rather than locking those individuals up. We also believe that we can do better in the state of Connecticut. We currently operate under this program called the IBEST program, the Integrated Basic Education and Skills Training Program. But that program was designed for basic adult education in English as a second language workers. Basically, it was going from community college to advanced placement classes to get a good paying job. We believe that's the wrong target for those coming out of our penal institutions. And we believe that a program that has been in its existence for over 30 years is the program that we ought to go to, and that's the CEO program, the Center for Employment Opportunities. It's based out of New York City. It focuses on our most at-risk population, those that are between the ages of 19 to 25. Those 18 to 25-year-olds have one of the highest recidivism rates, and recidivism is the amount of times that when you get released, you go back into jail or back into court. And a 5-year study on Connecticut male inmates showed that 79% were rearrested within 5 years. Unfortunately, 69% of those were because of a new crime, and 50% of those were given a new sentence. We know that the CEO program, which has been tried by another state, has found success because it works in 4 different program areas. The first one, immediately upon being released from your incarceration penal facility, you'll be assigned a life skills coach, a job coach, will help you with the transition going from a very structured environment to one not so structured. It'll also provide for short-term paid transitional employment, learning what it's like to get up every day, make sure you're going to work on time, learning how to provide interview skills. Thirdly, it will assist with full-time placement, ongoing support at these jobs. And lastly, a post-placement services with a program called the Rapid Rewards. So if you show up to work every day and every week you get a paycheck, you show that paycheck and there's a stipend at the end of the month for you as an incentive, and that carries on for 1 year. The study that was shown in New York has proven over 17,000 placements, with 2/3 of the program participants still in their jobs after 1 year. That is success. That's what we want to bring to Connecticut. I'll turn this program back to Senator Fasano.
Thank you very much. I want to recognize Representative McCrory and Representative Butler. Thank you for being here. And also Senator Famika and Senator Wong are also here in attendance as well. We talk about the fact that we've come out with this proposal. And as you drive up near the Bushnell, you'll see a phrase written on the building out there. It says, "Power moves in direction of hope." And if we don't have hope for progress and change, we'll be powerless for future challenges. And that's why we have a plan that gives us hope for economic development, hope for job growth, hope for opportunities, and hope for second chances. We also would like to take this opportunity to say on March 26th at 8:30 in the morning, there, in the private dining area, there is a book that many people should become familiar with called The Justice Imperative, put out by the Malta Justice Group. Senator Looney, representing the Democratic senators, and myself, representing the Republican senators, are doing a joint breakfast for which the Malta Justice Group will be there to talk about their book and talk about what it means. The Black and Latino Caucus is our special guest at this meeting. We also want to get as many legislators there as possible. Just quick on this book. This book is the way they break it out, it's kind of cool. It's myth versus reality. It's dealing strictly with Connecticut justice, with statistics over a particular period of time of Connecticut justice, and how incarceration and mandatory on certain nonviolent offender drug issues is what we're talking about. We need to rethink our system. It's a great book. It has some very, very good ideas in it, and we look forward to having some discussions on that level. Are there any questions? That concludes what we have to say. So if there are any questions, happy to take some questions.